Welcome to Stories and Songs by Afterglow Music. My name is Joel McCausland.
And I'm Kevin Peay, and we've been creating music for a long time.
We'd like to tell you the stories behind our songs. Do you want to start this, Kev? And then I got a story to tell about this one.
Joel, many hundreds of years ago.
Back in the oldest of old days.
Joel, you wrote a song that we put on one of our albums called A Feeling Within. And I think this was 1986. Mm-hmm. And this is one that I treasure because it's so versatile in regards to anybody giving something. And I'm not sure, I don't remember the story in regards to the song, but I do remember the arrangement and the words. And we've sung it a few times along the way. But tell us a little bit more about this song and how it came to be.
Yeah, the song's called You Gave Me More. And it's an interesting story, a story that I really do cherish. I grew up next to a very large family in my ward. Actually, we had a lot of big families in my ward. This particular family had 26 children. They had 10 children of their own natural mom and dad, and then they adopted 16 more over many years. This was probably over a 30-year period of time. And they were a really remarkable family. They had one income in their home, and he was a seminary teacher. And they just were always such a great example to me of people who just lived by faith and who lived the gospel, who just lived the way they were supposed to live. And I wasn't really close to any of them. It was mostly girls in the family, so they weren't like the guys I hung out with, the buddies. But I was close enough because we were in the same ward, and we were only a couple of blocks apart. And after I'd gotten married and was raising my own family and kind of lost touch with most of the people from my old ward, I got a call out of the blue on a Saturday. It took me a second to make the connection, but then I realized that this is one of the kids from this big family that was my neighbor as I was growing up. And the good sister that was on the other end of the line said, "Hi, do you mind if I come over? I have something I want to talk to you about." And I hadn't heard from her in years. I said, "Sure, come on over." And about an hour later, she showed up on my door, and we sat down, and she said, "I'd like to ask you to write a song. It's for my husband." And then she started talking about, and I started thinking to myself, wow, this kind of sounds like a funeral song. And I stopped her. I put my hand on her arm, and I said, "Has your husband passed?" I was really concerned about that. And she said, "No, not yet, but it's going to happen." And I was just completely dumbstruck. Like, I couldn't believe that she was sitting there in my front room. She was in a very similar situation to me at the time. And by that, I mean both raising young families. She had 2 or 3 little kids, just like I did. I just felt the parallels of that so strong. Like, she's sitting there so calmly and really so at peace and talking about, for probably a half an hour, all the ways that he had prepared their family for what was to come. And he'd been going through, it was a terrible disease. I believe it was a cancer of some kind, but very difficult and over many months, and pain and debilitating stuff going on in his own body. And I thought to myself, wow, I'd never met him, but this guy he clearly had the right spirit about him as a father and husband. And he had really gotten them as a family to the point where they could face this terrible tragedy, this hard thing that they had to go through. And I sat down that afternoon and started writing this song while those words from her were fresh on my mind. And it came pretty easily, actually, based on all of the things she had to say about him and what kind of a priesthood figure and what kind of a husband and what kind of a father he had been for their family. I finished the song, I sent it to her, and that was kind of the end of it for a while. And then a few months went by, and she called and gave me the word that he had passed and asked me to come sing at the funeral. We've done a few funeral songs. We've done a few. I just had a chance to sing for a funeral of a great friend last week. And they're always a mixture of emotions, for sure. You want to do a good job in paying tribute to that person. And yet the emotions are always high. And this was probably the hardest one, with the exception maybe of family. This was probably the hardest one I've ever had to do. But at the same time, it was sacred. There was a spirit about, both in the telling of his story and also in the performance that day, the peace that was in that room. And I think about a young father losing his life, a young family losing their father. How often would that be a peaceful, comforting experience? And man, I just got a whole new perspective for that day. So this song's been special to me for a lot of reasons. I've done it a few times since. You and I've sung it together. And it was great to get it on an album and have it available to us that way. But powerful experience for me.
We didn't have much time together on our way. We couldn't really know we'd have to face this day. And now the time has come. I hope that you can see, in spite of all the things we've lost, how much you've left to me. And you gave me more than words could ever say. You gave me hope, you brushed my tears away. The things that you have given are mine to have and hold. The treasures that you shared with me shine brighter now than gold. And you taught more than I'll ever understand. You lifted me, you led me by the hand. You must have just been with us to show a better way. You gave me more than words could ever say. Charity and peace, you taught us how to love. You've gone before to lead the way, preparing homes above. And some bright future day, together once again, we'll understand this path we've walked and see beyond the pain. You gave me more than words could ever say. You gave me hope, you brushed my tears away. The things that you have given are mine to have and hold. The treasures that you shared with me shine brighter now than gold. And you taught more than I'll ever understand. You lifted me, you led me by the hand. You must have just been with us to show a better way. You gave me more than words could ever say. You gave me more than words could ever say.